What's up, everyone? Jacob Roach back here from the Killing Joke Studios and Mixing with Metal. I have a very, very cool video for you guys today. Before we get into it, thank you so much for tuning in to the channel. Thank you so much for checking everything out, subscribing. It's really kind of awesome. I just kind of did this stuff for fun just because I wanted to share some knowledge I have with friends, and you guys are paying attention, so that's really cool. Make sure you do share this with your friends and that you get them subscribed to the channel, and we can all learn stuff about audio and metal and all sorts of cool stuff together, which is why this whole thing's fun in the first place, right? So today we're going to be talking about snare room samples. So to get an explosive snare sound, which is what, you know, is kind of synonymous with a lot of modern metal and metalcore, is that you want to get this kind of big, huge, explosive snare sound. And a big part of that is not the actual snare drum close miking, but it's a snare room. So having a nice room to record the snare in so that you can get this kind of explosive sound. That's where a lot of the snare comes from. Unfortunately, there's a problem with that. Many people who are mixing, if they get sent something or if they're recording by themselves, don't have an incredible drum room to get that snare sound going on. And if you're getting something sent to mix, you may not be getting an amazing drum room. And so it's good to have a backup. So we're going to be talking about a snare room sample and how that can help your mix today. So, excuse me, let's jump right into it. So let me show you this snare drum without the room, and then I'll bring the room in. Let me show you in the context of the drums, actually. That's probably a better comparison. Okay, and these drums aren't even mixed. There's a little bit of plugins on them, but they're not fully processed or anything. And that's already doing a ton for it. So let me just break down what's going on here. So first thing I do, as you can see, this is the top snare mic just copied over. Okay, so it's a new track, and I just copy the top snare mic over. Okay. Then what I do is I go in here to Trigger, and I load up some room samples. So I have, is this going to trigger for me? No. Okay, so I have, these are from Get Good Drums, and I have the medium, I believe. Yeah, the medium near room and the far room mic, and then I just blend those in. I typically take less of the far, a little bit more of the near. There we go. This adds a little bit more size. It's a little bit more intimate and explosive. Okay, so I add that in. And the important thing here to note is that you can't just load up a mono version. You're going to have a mono track, but what's really important here is that you go and you load up the mono to stereo version of Trigger so that your sample can be in stereo. A long time, and I feel so dumb for this, a long time I would just load up a mono version. I'd be like, why doesn't my snare sound big and wide? And I didn't even think to load up the mono to stereo version of the plugin. So that version of the plugin does exist for a reason, and this is that reason. So make sure you have that, you have the mono to stereo version of Trigger loaded up. Cool. So now we have our snare sample, our snare room sample, which on its own just sounds like this. Sounds pretty good, but we want to add some, life. We want to make this snare room exciting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to load up Virtual Mix Rack. So in Virtual Mix Rack, I have two things going on. I have the Custom Series Lift, and then I have the Blue Edition FG116 Modern of the 1176. And let me bypass that and bring it in and show you what it's doing. A lot. That makes the snare sound explosive, okay? And that's the goal of it. So the first thing that we're doing is a room is inherently probably going to be, these samples at least are pretty dark, and we're trying to focus specifically on the snare. And so the first thing I'm doing is boosting a ton of top end because I want to get that top end snare crack, and I want it to be exciting. And so that's the first thing that's going on. So let me show you that on its own. All right, we're there. We're starting to get some excitement in there, but now I want to really breathe. I want the snare to sound like it's just getting hit like crazy. And so that's where this compression comes in. We're using 1176, and I have the release set to as fast as possible, and then I have the attack backed off to let that transient through. And let me show you what that's doing. And I'm going pretty aggressive with it because I want that pop. That's what I'm looking for out of the room. So I got that pop going on. And that's all the processing I do on the snare room. And then after that, that's it. The only thing I do next is I have my, which I should probably get this all loaded up really quick for you. I have my, my drum crush or my parallel drum compression. Let's see. There's that. What's going on here is just a blackface 1176 for the drums. And then I'm knocking off quite a bit, probably in this 7 to 10 range. Let off the attack a little bit, let that transient through, and then fast release. And then I just send a little bit of that snare room to the drum crush. So let me show you what that's doing. And generally I back this down to maybe here. And generally I maybe back this down to say negative 15 or so. Again, reinforcing that life in the drum room. And that's it. So that's what helps you get that explosive kind of big, huge snare sound is really a snare room. I'm sure there's some free snare rooms online. If not, Get Good Drums is a very solid option. If you know Periphery, of course, they're known for that explosive snare sound. So what better place to get it than from the guys who helped create that sound? So this has been a huge thing for me in mixing is just adding this one thing has reinforced my snare so much and really helps it. As you can see, I have it pretty well blended in with the other snare mics, and ultimately the snare room makes up a good sound of what is perceived as just the snare drum being hit in the track. So this is really important, and I think this can help you guys out a lot. So let me know if this did help you. Please try it out and throw it in your mix. And if it does help you, let me know in the comments below. If there's any like free samples for rooms, make sure you post the link in the comments below so that other people can go down and just check those out and grab those really quick. And I would love to check them out and grab them really quick. So post your links below. Make sure you hit the button in the center of the screen right now, subscribe to the channel, and check out the 2 other videos that are flashing up right now. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.